Hi, Conscious Mamas. Tell me when you come on. This is a really big Facebook Live. I'm so excited to be here, bringing some love and some wisdom that hopefully will help clear some of the confusion around this really big topic today. So if you saw my post in the group, great. Then you're going to join with intention, and if not, if you're watching back, then say hi and let me know where you're watching from. Hi, Lori. I'm so happy to have had a series of connections in the last few weeks that really brought this topic into focus, so I can bring it to all of you. I know if it's coming up for so many of the women who reach out to me that it's bound to be here, and that some of you who will watch this or be drawn into tuning in today or in the coming week will really I know this will be helpful for you. So say hi when you come on. Today what is on my heart to talk about is for all of the women, all the women who are here and all the women who are not here, who are really stuck in their relationships. So if you can hear me, let me know. I'm on earbuds today. I think this will work. So I've been in conversation with a whole slew of women lately who are stuck in a similar situation. And I'm just going to describe it, and you can see if this is you and let me know if this feels like where you are. And it's kind of hard to talk about because, and I have avoided it myself I've avoided this topic in this group for many reasons for a while. And, I find myself I wrote about it really easily this morning, but in going to talk about it, there's a little bit of avoidance on my part. So I'm really having to check in and go, what the heck is that about? And I know what it is. For me, it's a mirroring of the avoidance that you're feeling. So it's safer to join with you in avoiding talking about the problem than it is to really put my finger on it. And I'm just going to choose what I think is the most loving way to go, which is to name it and acknowledge it, so that if you're not going to suffer in silence, and you're not going to make the mistake of thinking you're alone, but rather just to bring it out so that you can see and feel and hear your own self on this topic. And I'd like to just have a really honest conversation about it in hopes that this is what you need to hear. So I want to describe kind of what the issue feels like first, and then you can add your own experience of it. So many of the women who I've worked with for over such a long time, this isn't new in my awareness. It's a new courage for me to be able to name it and talk about it. But so many of the women who have reached out to me over the years and in my work have been really stuck in the marriage since having kids. For some of them longer. For some of you, there may have been dynamics present from before you decided to start a family. But you successfully danced around them, because before you have kids, it just feels like the stakes are a lot lower. Once you have kids, then what goes on in the relationship really matters and reverberates through kids and through the family dynamics. So everything magnifies, which is what motherhood does. It magnifies all of the things that aren't working in the marriage, in the relationship. Okay, so how it's been looking lately is my husband is highly anxious. He tries to control me by discouraging me from taking care of myself, or maybe way more subtle, just subtle manipulation, taking control gradually of the finances. After you become a mom and start focusing more of your energy on kids, there'll be sort of a gradual taking over of the finances. So taking over of the decisions the family makes, where you invest, what you buy, which may or may not, but in a lot of cases lately includes, do you get to go to yoga? Do you get to go meet up with a friend? Is he going to cover for you to take care of you, or give you an allowance and then dictate how you're allowed to spend it. And so how you end up, and whether it's this extreme or whether it is more subtle, you feel really disrespected. Perhaps your partner is not seeing you, appreciating you, and over the years of being a mom and having kids, it's become more extreme. And there may be feelings of, and I wrote this in the post today, if you feel like you're having to walk on eggshells to not upset your husband, if you feel like you're having to protect the kids to keep them out of the line of fire, if you believe that if you weren't there, if you took time for you and you weren't there, that things could get really ugly. So you're not feeling safe in your experience. You're not feeling safe in your body. You're not having ownership over your choices. You're not allowed to really follow up on your own needs and take action on those. This is kind of how you perceive the world. What happens is over time you begin to isolate yourself and back yourself into a corner. Like life will get smaller and smaller as you withdraw from social circles, as you kind of accept the limitations that your partner brings in. So it could look a million different ways, and if this is resonating, I would invite you to just help me paint this picture now and give me the words and give me the circumstances, because it really does look different for everyone. But in general, if you found that since becoming a mom, your life is getting smaller and smaller, and that it doesn't feel good to you, then you are likely pulling inward, withdrawing, holding back, becoming small for some really good reasons. And if one of those reasons is that you don't feel free to be you, you don't feel free to listen to your own needs and take action on those, and you feel a real pressure from your partner, or you feel a lack of support, and it can manifest in so many different ways, then just checking in on what I wrote in the post to make sure I'm covering all the bases here. Basically, when you stay in that, you kind of get into a habit of overriding your inner wisdom, overriding your divine guidance. If you're a person who prays, if you meditate, if you practice contemplative prayer and you're listening, you're going to receive guidance in those times, and you're not going to take action on it. You're going to just go, I don't know how, I don't know how to do that. If you begin overriding that voice and those voices, and you're doing that because you're afraid of upsetting your partner, or you just don't want to fuel the fire, or it's easier to kind of lay low. You tell yourself this, it's easier to lay low and kind of try to avoid the conflict or the power struggle. Then after a while, you really lose connection with your heart, with your own fire. And where I see people going is they get to a point where they're reaching out for help and saying, I've been here so long, I can't imagine anything different. And my marriage is at a point where there's so little connection between the two of us, I don't even know if I want to reconnect or stay with this person. And I can't tell you how much I hear this. I don't even know if I want to stay with this person, but I couldn't even consider being without my kids. So splitting up the family, living without, or getting a divorce or separating. The thought of losing my kids or getting half time with my kids is so upsetting, which it's obvious why. It's so overwhelming that it's easier to stay in avoidance. That it's easier to muscle through, push through, and stay in avoidance rather than address what really is not working. And if you feel very disempowered, if you don't have decision-making power in your family, and and of course, I don't just mean over like what hours you work, or what food you guys eat in the house, or what I'm talking about is real decisions that affect you and everyone in the family. If you don't feel like an equal partner at the table, if you don't know that your voice matters and that what you say and feel matters and has an impact, if you don't know that, if you don't see that playing out in your life and in your family, it's because you actually don't know it yet. You don't know it yet for yourself, so your partner can't know it until you know it. And what I want to say is that I want to I could go on and on talking about this, but I want this to be a focused talk so you get through it today. It is completely exhausting to be in this place. It's totally exhausting. When you're living out of alignment with your heart's desires, with your values, with your dreams, when you're living in a relationship that is not about the truth, it's about avoiding the truth, you'll deplete so much energy and so much time, and so many of your natural resources will be depleted in just maintaining that imbalance. So if there's emotional abuse, if there's manipulation, if there's your partner's ugly to you, that's verbal abuse. If he or she is manipulative, that's emotional abuse. If there's control, so you don't really have control of your finances, you don't have access to money, you don't have access to time and resources for yourself, for your health. Those are all different forms of abuse. And the energy it takes to survive under those circumstances is enormous. It's enormous. And what we tell ourselves is that it will be too much effort or time or money for me to try to fix the relationship. And a lot of the women who are out there just kind of living out these lopsided relationships and marriages, if you're there, I know that one thing that we will tell ourselves is, this is better than the alternative of having to go get a job and earn money and support my kids and live separately from my partner. But, is that really true? Is one thing I want to say. Is that really true? And also, is that really the only option? And I've posted today in the announcement for this live, I've said it that way because I know so many of us who are living life small, who are feeling trapped, who've backed ourselves into a corner. If you've made your life really small, your mind cannot possibly think in an expansive way. You have no access to creative ideas. So of course you're going to reach for, well, it's either this or that. You're in black and white thinking. When we get into survival mode, we're really in black and white thinking. And so we wind up saying to ourselves, well, it's either he goes to couples therapy with me, or we go to couples counseling, or he goes to get help on his own, or I will have to leave, or I will just have to stay quiet and slowly deplete myself until I hit a breaking point, which is what happens when we try to ignore the truth. And so these are not the only options. And this is what I want to come on to say today. So I want to blow up, just really pick apart something and show you another way of looking at it. So what we think is, if he won't agree to come do healing work with me, if he won't agree to go to the couples therapy, and these guys who are controlling and it's a fear, they're driven by fear. So a lot of anxiety, a lot of kind of threats or controlling or attempts to keep you small or keep you from, and I don't think that mostly it comes from a place of wanting to inflict harm. I think we're just all living what we came from. We're just all doing the best we can. And sometimes in relationships, when we have kids, the ugly stuff is what really comes out. And so if we're thinking, either he goes to couples therapy with me, or this can't change. Or if we're thinking, if he doesn't see the problem the way that I do, then this can't change. Or we're thinking, if he doesn't take responsibility for his shortcomings, if he doesn't own the fact that he's being disrespectful to me or to the kids, then this can't ever change. And I know this may sound really radical, and I might be really going against the grain on this one, but I have enough evidence at this point that fully supports me coming into a deep knowing about this, which I suspected to be true for a long time. But none of those things are the case. It's just not true that he has to go to therapy with you, or he has to take ownership in order for transformative change to happen, or he has to change first, or he has to acknowledge that his behavior is wrong. Or, I mean, it's great if he does acknowledge those things. That's great. But none of your change work is contingent on him seeing his flaws or taking ownership of those. Eventually, it's going to go that direction if you begin to come into ownership of you and your experience. But I want to really make sure that you get this, and tell me if this is making sense. And I see so many of my beautiful clients on here. I see you. I love you. Tell me if it's making sense. I feel this topic is going to take me a couple times to dive into here, because it's really big, and I'm just finding the words for it now in how to frame your corner of this work. And so, okay, thanks. So just to say this one more time, if you are under the assumption or the belief, and no blame, no self-criticism, none of that's allowed. But if you have been thinking up to now, you're going to really like what I have to say. If you have been thinking that he has to do the work in order for our relationship to be saved, that he has to see the problem the way I see it, that he has to acknowledge and take ownership of what's going on before anything can get any better, that the good news is that none of that is true. And the reason why you need to know that is because as long as you are buying that erroneous thinking, you are completely powerless to change it. Do you know why? Because you're relying on someone outside of you to do something, anything, for you to be able to change. And it's just an out. It's a way that we stay in avoidance. It's a way that we stay in hiding and in smallness. And I know it doesn't look like that on the surface. It looks like, but I'm being strong. Like, I'm taking him to task. I'm saying he doesn't get to do that to me. You have to say you don't get to do that to me, but it doesn't end there. That isn't enough to create transformation in the relationship. So I'm going to explain what a relationship is so you really understand this and get this. Okay. So when, to really get that thinking is erroneous or is backwards thinking, you have to understand what a relationship is. And most of us have never thought about this. Unless you're a couples therapist, you probably haven't done a whole lot of thinking about what a relationship is. A relationship is okay, I'm going to tell it to you in terms of like where I'm coming from in psychodynamic theory, psychodynamic psychotherapy, and my background in practicing as a psychotherapist. A relationship is the third entity. It is neither you nor your partner. We can all agree to that, right? A relationship is something else. It's not me. It's not my husband. It's the third entity. It is a co-created experience. Okay, it's not a person. It's not a thing. I'm calling it an entity intentionally. It's an entity because it is the energy that is co-created when two people mix it up with each other. And it changes and ebbs and flows over time. It's completely fluid. It's not static. It's complete. You feel stuck, but your relationship is growing and changing, sinking, rising, moving, expanding, contracting all the time. So the relationship is the co-creation. It's an experience, it's energy, it's an experience, it's moving and changing all the time. We're contributing to it, and the other person is contributing to it based on, do you know what? What is the co-creation? Where is it coming from? Who knows? Say it in the chat if you know. It's the thing that happens when we mix it up with someone else, when we do that dance of relationship. And this is also true with your ex. It's also true with someone that you are newly dating. This isn't just marriage. This is all relationship. I can't see the comments if you're leaving comments, but I'd love for you to take a guess and tell me. So, okay. So the relationship is the co-creation. And what that means is that we have influence, we have impact, we have so much power over what happens in our relationships because it's all coming from inside of us. We are co-creating it. We don't have control over the relationship itself, and we never will. We never will have control over the relationship because that is the co-creation. It's coming from me. It's coming from my partner. It's a co-creation. I also will never have control over my husband. I mean, that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed. If you think you have control over your partner, then again, erroneous thinking that is really going to slow you down from your own expansion, your own being in your light. Okay. I know that a lot of you already know that, but yet we live in the day-to-day as if it is true that we can and should be able to control our partner and our children. And we can't. So most people stop there. They go, I know I can't control him. I know his healing is up to him. And so I guess I'm just screwed. The relationship is screwed. And I feel like I hear this in so many different iterations. We think that because we have no control over our partners, that there's no hope for the relationship because they've said no to couples therapy, because they won't hear us speak, because they're totally shut down, because they have generalized anxiety disorder, because they have multiple complex trauma and have never gotten help, or because they can't hear a word that we say without it turning into a fight, or because they feel that berated by us, or because they feel criticized by us, the relationship is dead. Right? How many of us have spun those wheels? We've spun those wheels, and you won't get anywhere to keep spinning them. You won't get anywhere new. Definitely just keep digging the wheels deeper in the trenches until you do decide to split up, or until, 10 years from now and the kids are gone and you finally think, I'm free. I can start my own career at this point. But is that really what you want? And so I know for many of the women who reach out to me, that isn't what they want. What they want is for it to be good now. What they want is to really feel love and be loved. They want to feel seen. They want to feel valued. They want their husbands to respect them. They want their children to follow that model of being loved and valued and respected. Because what happens alternatively when we've just written off the relationship and are in hiding or in avoidance from a partner who disrespects us is that our children mimic that behavior, and you know it. It's already happening. They mimic all the stuff that you can't stand hearing. It hurts your ears, and you think, oh my God, I know that's me, or I know that's my partner. It sounds exactly like the way that we say it. They mimic that, and we realize that it's official at that point. We can't deny it. When they're one or two, before they get the wording right and the intonation, we can go, they're not really picking it up, but just wait. And when they become 7 or 9 or in the teen years, it's unmistakable that they are living out our unresolved stuff. And so all the more motivation to figure out if the relationship really is dead, or if there is a way that we can have our own transformation that will bring healing into the relationship. And so what I really want to share with you today is that if you have been believing that your marriage is too far gone, that there's no hope for you, or you've just been waiting and praying and hoping that some miracle would drop in, and you would really find out that there is a way for you to transform your marriage relationship, to not have to leave it, but to bring new light and new love and new healing and trust and security into your partnership, then that is why I'm coming on today. That is what I'm here to tell you. So, circling back for a moment about how this is true. If the relationship is a co-creation, if it's neither you nor him, but it is something that you both create together, what that means is that everything that you're feeling, that you're believing, your thoughts and ideas about yourself and the world is what flows into your relationship. And your partner's thoughts and ideas about him or herself and the world are also flowing into the relationship. And if you're here and this is resonating for you, what's happening is that's creating a lot of friction and conflict, and there's just disconnect, just total disconnect, and then anger, and then layers of resentment, and then layers of grief and sadness, and then hopelessness. It doesn't have to end there. It doesn't have to end in a break. And of course, there'll be some of you who will tune in that are in different circumstances. And I understand that too, where sometimes you're on the path to separation because your path of self-realization includes having outgrown the relationship. And I'm not talking to you today. And hopefully this is helpful for you anyways, and just reflecting on where you've been. But to understand that we're each of us contributing to a co-creation, it's not a big leap from there to realize that, if I change, and this is how the question comes in, how's it going to work if I change? I'm just going to outgrow the relationship and it will end anyway, right? So I get that a lot. How is it going to help change the relationship for me to change? Because what I'm guessing is going to happen is I'm going to leave him behind. And that's really scary for me. And I don't want to abandon him. I don't want my kids to lose their intact family. I don't want them to lose their dad. I don't want to set him into such a tailspin that he goes down the wrong path. And there's so many fears around realizing our power. It is endless how many fears we can have about owning the way we feel and honoring the way we feel. But if we know that we're done being disrespected, then we're here between a rock and a hard place. Because I'm done being spoken to like that. I can feel that way. I'm done being spoken to like that. I'm done being backed into a corner. I'm done feeling like my choices, my decisions, my desires don't matter. I know they do. So if you're there, then you're ready to take some kind of action, but your partner doesn't see it. So you're thinking, what the hell do I do now? So it is universal law. It's also family systems theory. It's also in a lot of psychodynamic theories. When one person in a relationship or a system changes, the entire system changes. It has to. When we do a healing work, when we heal our hearts, when we come into a new belief that sounds like, I matter, and what I want matters, and I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get healthy. When we get there and embody that certainty, that energy, that resilience, that strength, ownership of I matter. Yeah, it's the easiest way I can think to say it. When we own that, the relationship itself cannot not change. It cannot stay where it's been. Do you get that? Does that make sense? It can't not change because it's a co-creation. It would be the same would be true if you did nothing to work on you and your partner did a whole lot of work on him or herself. The same is true, because what then flows into the relationship from one side changes the shape of the relationship itself. And I really, really want to share this message, which is that does not mean that the relationship will end. In 9 times out of 10, in my experience, it means everyone in the family is elevated. It's actually more like 99 out of 100 is the real statistic in my own clinical experience. That's a lot. That's coming from a lot of women who were in relationships that felt doomed, where they felt unloved, they felt undervalued, they felt even afraid. And yet, when they learned to step into ownership of their wisdom with 2 feet and start making decisions without the self-doubt, when they move past the anxiety, break out of the overwhelm, and get a clear head, and know how to trust themselves and lead the family from that place, the relationship experiences healing. The relationship benefits from that new life. From you being in your light, your marriage will gain light. Does that make sense? And tell me what you're hearing. Tell me if this is any of the spaghetti is sticking to the wall. I hope I'm being clear. The big takeaway today is that you are more powerful than you know. You're more powerful than you know. And so many of us, when we're in the dark, cannot imagine how the light feels. That is just the spiritual experience. When we are in the dark, some of us remember a time when we felt that what we had to say was important, or that it really was possible to realize our desires. And we can sometimes connect with and remember a time when we felt loved, whether it was by our now partner or someone else. And I really want to speak out to you and just speak to your heart and share the truth of what I know from working with women in the style that I do for several years now, and seeing that your epic growth and change results in transformed relationships, and that you do not need your partner to see anything the way you see it before you decide to make a change. That happens, his or her change in perspective, his or her change of heart, comes as a result of the work we do. That when we start the balls in motion, when we say yes to us, we say yes to healing. And that flows freely through all aspects of our co-creations. And you know, the amazing news is that, and it clears out a lot of the junk. It can't not, because when you stay clear, you continue your expansion. We're afraid of leaving. We feel responsible. I don't want to leave anyone behind. I better stay small so I don't leave anyone behind. Like, we're not thinking that consciously, but that's exactly what's happening. I better just not want too much because I'm scared of outgrowing this person, this family, this relationship, and I really don't want to. You don't have to. You don't have to leave anybody behind. But the longer you try to drag someone around and maintain responsibility for the way they feel or protect them from their own crash and burn, the longer we do that, the longer everyone stays stuck. Does that make sense? So it's a really big topic, and we can keep talking about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you think this makes sense, if you think that might work for other people but not me, let's see. Just try me. Ask me your questions. And I'm so happy to be here for you and answer. Oh, good. I'm glad it's making sense. So just asking your own heart right now, is there some aspect of my relationship that needs an overhaul? And you don't have to do that work alone, but you can shift the energy of the direction you're headed in by saying yes to you. So just begin with that realization that I've been tolerating something that's really not okay with me for a long time. And then take the step to reach out for help if you need it and if you want it. And I'm here for you if you want help just getting the clarity about, is it too late for us or not? Or is it really true for me what you're saying? Can it work for me to really come into ownership of my own healing and then seeing that flow into my relationship? I'm more than happy to help you get clarity about that. You can always PM me or reach out, or go ahead and book a call if you want to have some help and support on that. Otherwise, leave your questions and let me know what you're wanting. I see a comment here. Hi, Ruth Ann. Let's see what you got. Oh, will it let me? Okay. I don't think I would have bought it before, but I went through Awakened Motherhood, and now it feels like the wisdom that's always been there, but I was blind to. I love the way you describe that. It's true. It's the process of awakening to our divine wisdom, our higher self, that God connection, that part of us, that infinite part of us. That is where all the healing. That's where all the healing is. And it's really not about binging on information to learn, the nuts and bolts of communication. A lot of people will tell me, we've been going to couples therapy, and we're working on communication. When we drive deeper, what's happening is I'm learning how to tell you how I feel by using I statements. And there's a witness there. And the witness is trying to point out to us how to gain insight about the other person's experience. But guess what? Nothing changes. Do you know why? And this is so frustrating. You might gain some insight. You might have some moments of empathy for your partner. But what you're co-creating does not change until one of you does transformational work. And, for better or worse, we can't do transformational work with another person for ourselves as an individual. Two people can do it for their own individual selves, and the co-creation changes, and it's beautiful. One person can also do it, and that person can create the kind of relationship between you and you that is about love and compassion and gentleness and forgiveness, and then that becomes the co-creation. Is this making sense? Okay, good. Yes, I love this. Oh, cool. So you've experienced the pattern, but I still feel stuck with my kids. And it is, of course, it's relationships. So these same things can play out with our kids. Yeah, and the deeper beliefs come up and rear their head, and we blame ourselves because we can't see what we're missing. Okay, great. So I feel like we're on track and it's making sense. And if anyone else has comments or questions, don't hesitate. And it's a huge, I think, very new idea. I think that it's also the oldest. It's also ancient, but like in terms of modern practices and kind of especially modern mental health practices, this is very cutting edge to realize that our inner work will change a relationship, and that that doesn't require anything from anyone outside of us, anyone else in our relationship. And that we can get into the being of the result that we want to have. And from there, the co-creation completely shifts and changes. Okay. All right. Any last comments? I'll circle back too, but Thanks so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me and joining me and making this a more lively conversation and topic. Just hoping that you'll take from it whatever you need, and trusting that, and trusting you'll reach out if you need further help. Okay. Love and blessings to you. I'll see you all again very soon.